What's the strangest thing you've ever seen someone casually do while you were in their home? Gave plates to their dogs to lick clean, and put the plates directly back into the cabinets. I'm hoping they were fucking with me. This comes up on Reddit far too often. How many disgusting people do this? We let our dogs lick the plates and then put them in the dishwasher. Dogs don't belong into the dishwasher. My neighbor, she has a sofa, and behind this sofa there's a whole wall mirror. All her guests are seated there, and she sits across from it on her lazy boy chair. She's asked everyone a ton of questions, meanwhile she's staring at herself nonstop. She's a narcissist. That is really fucking weird. Taking several frogs out of his room and throwing them in a bush, saying something like, "Ugh, not this again." I never asked him why there were frogs and how often he has to do this. Made hot chocolate with buttermilk because they were out of milk and kept trying to reassure me it would taste good. Maybe like pudding. Also later they asked me if I wanted pizza and I was like, yeah, sure. They then took out a couple of slices of white bread, put some ketchup and cheese on them and just served them like that, didn't even heat them up. I hope they were arrested. To be honest, they had a lot of weird eating habits. One time they ate pickles with jam. Oh, and once they dared themselves to do a shot of soy sauce. Went to a coworker's house to have a few beers and play video games. About 20 minutes and he gets up to go use the bathroom or whatever, it takes a while. I hear him moving around in the other room and him leave the house. He came back like 5 minutes later. I asked him what he was doing. Emptying the bucket. I'm like, emptying what bucket? Apparently he was in the middle of renovating his only bathroom and none of the plumbing was working, so he'd been shitting and pissing in a bucket while the work was going on. Problem is he ran out of money steam to finish the bathroom, so apparently all winter he'd been shitting in a bucket because he was too lazy to finish his bathroom project. It was just so fucking gross how casual he was about it. We're in the middle of a major metropolitan area. Went to a friend's house before. The only ones living there is her and her mother. She felt like it was normal to be topless in her house even though I, who is a guy, was in the house with her. Her mother yelled her to put shirt or something on, but not in a strict or forceful tone. More or less like she only half cares. She just shrugged it off and wore a bra, and then we played Naruto Shippuden. She had a boyfriend at the time and I had a girlfriend at the time, so I had a roller coaster of emotions of how I should feel about this. Did you run with your arms behind you to her bedroom? Dear God, just cause I liked anime like Naruto doesn't mean I was like one of those kids in school. She didn't chew her food. One time when I was a little kid, I went to my friend's house. Her mom made us mac and cheese. I got my plate and started eating. When I looked up, she had already cleared her plate. I asked how she ate so fast and she casually says that she doesn't chew. Mac and cheese can just be swallowed because of the sauce. I tried it and can confirm that you can just swallow Kraft mac and cheese, but that was pretty weird. Still love that friend today though. Did she learn to chew? Yes. She chews now. No. She's dead now. Choked on a pickle. My friend berating his sister through the window of the bathroom, while sitting on the toilet, while smoking a cigarette, because she spilled her mojito in the pool. Friends and I got super drunk. My friend had a massive dog, like the size of a bear. My friend decided his dog looked cold, so he crawled into the dog's bed and spooned with the dog and fell asleep. They did look super peaceful, but it was weird. Our friend was having a get-together party and invited a bunch of friends over. Most of her friends were still over when all of a sudden she said in a casual way that it was a great eve and she is going to sleep now. Off to bed our host went. We never saw her again, and the party still carried on for another 3 hours or so. I was 14 and was moving out of my apartment complex, so I decided to hang out at my friend's apartment one last time. My friend was 15 BTW. We were playing 2K when the doorbell rang. My friend opened it and said, "Hey big sis!" Apparently his sister had just come to visit from college. Nevertheless, my friend just let his sister in and gave her the biggest smooch on the lips I have ever seen. It was like 4 seconds of lip-on-lip action. Then my friend's parents came in, and they all greeted each other and stuff. After that, he came right back into the room and resumed the game like nothing had ever happened. I was so shook and thought that I hadn't seen what I just saw. So I go over to this guy's house. He seemed relatively, Normal. It was my first visit. We're going to play some Madden and drink beer prior to a night out. He answers the door. He's holding his fluffy cat, and I come in. They seem sweet and cuddly. No problem, we sit down, we're talking. Mr. Kitty seems content getting some scritches in his owner's lap. All's well, he says. Hey, want a beer? I say, sure. As he stands, Mr. Kitty goes berserk and hisses. And dude straight up shot puts that fucking cat at terminal velocity, ass over and across the room. Holy fucking Jesus. Wide-eyed and stunned when I look back. This dude's already in the kitchen, getting a beer out of the fridge. Casually not even giving a fuck that he just pitched his cat across his apartment. He hands it to me, not a word said. Proceeds to stand at the island between the kitchen and living room and chat about some shit. Meanwhile, Mr. Kitty jumps up on the countertop and goes over for a snuggle. Then growls and pounces on and proceeds to then emulate the ever-loving shit out of this guy, who then bitch slaps Mr. Kitty while screaming at full volume. You wanna do this, motherfucker? Again, zero acknowledgement of any of this directed towards me. I know he saw my expression. I couldn't even begin to hide how insane this shit looked. Later on, he gets up to go to the bathroom. Mr. Kitty darts out from under the chair and digs into this guy's leg. I mean, drawing blood levels of viciousness. Dude casually kicks the shit out of the cat. When he gets back, Kitty hops into his lap, curls up and snuggles for some more scratches. This was their life, how these two lunatics lived. With no explanation or acknowledgement. Their everyday normal. Jesus. She changed and took off all her clothes while keeping a conversation. It was a meeting with 4 people, 2 being male. I'm a massage therapist. I was massaging a lady in her home and the massage ended. I told her it was over and she just jumped up, completely naked, and started talking to me. Took a good 30 seconds for her to start putting on clothes. I met a couple through my fire dancing troupe. Wife was nice and invited me for dinner. I was in the kitchen with her chit-chatting when husband walked in, opened the fridge, pulled out a can of shredded Fancy Feast, it's cat food, with a little spoon in it, took 2 bites, stopping to savor each one, then put the can away and walked out. He never looked at us, she didn't acknowledge him, just kept chatting with me. I asked her about it after the fact, and she denied it happened or that her husband eats Fancy Feast, but I wasn't ever invited over again. Answering for my dad here. He went to this kid's house for the first time when he was maybe 13, and the kid goes, watch this. He then proceeds to shit on the marble floor of their fancy-ass house and made the cleaning lady come over and they watched as she cleaned it up. He didn't go over again. Edit. It was his grandmother who cleaned it up, and she watched the whole thing happen, apparently already knowing the drill. My dad is still traumatized. Milk with ice. After watching S1 of God, I decided to try iced milk sweetened with honey, and I can tell you now, it's fucking amazing on a hot day. Friend used to sop up his pit sweat with a piece of white bread and then feed the bread to the dog. Worst one. You win. My friend's 70-year-old father was having a wash in the laundry sink when I was 10. My first glimpse of a wrinkly penis. Memorable. Then he just walked around the house naked. In front of us 10-year-old girls. No shame. I grew up in a really conservative family that really focused on modesty. Skirts past the knees, no collarbone showing. When I was 12, I went over to a new friend's house for the first time and her dad answered the door in just tidy witties and just greeted me like normal. Then my friend came in the room and I thought she would be outraged that her dad was in such an embarrassing state. She just walked right past him and asked me to come in. I was completely mortified. Also, I can't believe a 70-year-old man wouldn't realize how inappropriate being naked in front of a bunch of young girls was. My cousin is one of those people who is weirdly body confident, and he'll just casually take off his shirt or pants at home. Like how a regular person will just shrug off a hoodie or kick off their shoes, he'll just strip down to his boxers and flop onto the couch. Kinda weird. I do that. It doesn't matter to me if it's just family in the house, especially if it's a hot-ass Aussie day. My friend just walked to his freezer, pulled out a frozen pizza and asked me if I want some. I said sure, and he just pulls another one out for me. I asked him later about it, and he said, I was too hungry to share, we each ate a whole pizza. While going to film school in LA, I was an intern for an Academy Award-nominated director. He ran his production company out of his house, and sometimes I would stumble upon him doing really mundane things like laundry or talking about the health benefits of potatoes. The only reason it felt strange was because of his relatively high-profile status in Hollywood. My neighbors stay in their Sunday church clothes all day. Even when barbecuing, playing in the yard, walking the dog, they are always dressed in suits and ties and dresses. All of them, the entire family, we're all religious. But when I'm finished with church, I come home, throw on lounge clothes, and call it good. There's no way I'm staying in pantyhose and an itchy dress all day, thank you very much. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.